Rain came down in hard, slanted sheets, turning the cracked asphalt of the Blackreach industrial corridor into a mirror of broken lights. Nayeli Okoye slammed her van door shut and cursed under her breath as thunder rolled overhead. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Delivery complete. Route closed. $18 earned. The warehouse loomed in front of her, steel doors half open, one flickering security light swinging like it might fall at any second. She took 3 steps toward her van again. Then she heard it. A sharp, wet sound, a groan that didn't belong to the wind. Nayeli froze. Her heart kicked hard against her ribs as another sound followed, thin, desperate, unmistakable. A baby crying. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Her eyes lifted. A man was slumped against the warehouse door, rain plastering his dark hair to his forehead. Blood soaked through his jacket, spreading down his side, dripping onto the concrete in slow, horrifying pulses. One of his hands was pressed tightly to his abdomen. The other held a gun. 2 infant car seats sat beside him, shields of plastic and fabric against the storm. Tiny fists flailed in the air. 2 red faces screamed into the night. The man lifted his head with effort, eyes sharp despite the pain. His arm trembled as he raised the gun toward her. "Walk away," he said hoarsely. His accent was thick, Korean. "Or all 3 of us die." Nayeli's breath caught in her throat. Her legs refused to move. "Before we continue, can I ask you a question? Where in the world are you watching from? Comment below because we'd love to know how far these stories travel, and hit that subscribe button. Now let's continue." Her mind screamed at her to run. Every instinct she had learned growing up in South London, every survival lesson drilled into her after moving to Port Calder, told her this was none of her business. Armed man, blood, babies, warehouse district, midnight. Death lived in places like this. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, hands lifting slowly, palms open. Her voice shook despite her effort to steady it. "I'm just a delivery driver." "Leave," he snapped, jaw tightening as another wave of pain ripped through him. His finger twitched on the trigger. "You don't understand what this is." "I understand you're bleeding," Nayeli shot back, anger flaring through fear. "And I understand those babies are freezing." The cries grew louder, more frantic, like they sensed the danger hovering over them. Rain plastered Nayeli's jacket to her skin. Her sneakers were soaked through. She took one cautious step closer. "Stop," he warned. She stopped. Silence stretched between them, broken only by rain and the baby's cries. Nayeli's gaze flicked to the car seats. They were strapped in properly. Warm blankets tucked tight. Whoever this man was, he hadn't just dumped them there. "Are they yours?" she asked quietly. His jaw clenched. "One of them, and the other." "My responsibility." Something in his voice cracked just enough to reach her. Nayeli swallowed. Images slammed into her mind uninvited. Sirens screaming down a highway, twisted metal. Her mother's head slumped forward unnaturally, her father's bloodied hand slipping from hers as she screamed his name. She hadn't been able to save them. She'd been too young, too powerless. She looked at the babies again. "I can't leave," she said. "Then you'll die," he replied flatly. "Maybe," she said. "But they will too if I walk away." The man stared at her, rain streaking down his face like tears. For a moment, Nayeli thought he might pull the trigger anyway. Instead, his arm sagged. The gun clattered onto the concrete. He slumped harder against the door. "Damn it," he muttered. "Damn it." Nayeli ran. She dropped to her knees beside him, hands already moving on instinct. "Don't move. You're losing too much blood." "Don't touch me," he growled weakly. "I was in nursing school," she snapped. "Or did you miss the part where I said delivery driver, not assassin?" Her fingers pressed against his side. He hissed in pain, muscles tensing under her touch. "Bullet went clean through," she muttered, more to herself than him. "Entry wound's ugly. You've been bleeding for a while." He laughed, a short, broken sound. You're observant. Stay with me, she said sharply. What's your name? Silence. Hey, she said, grabbing his chin gently, forcing his gaze back to hers. What's your name? Yang Seoryan, he said after a beat. And if you're smart, you'll forget it. Nayeli Okoye, she replied. And you're not dying in the rain tonight. One of the babies let out a hiccuping sob. Nayeli's chest tightened painfully. How old? She asked. 8 weeks, Seoryan murmured. Both of them. Twins, she said softly. Yes. She glanced toward her van parked 20 feet away. Old, dented, barely holding together, but it ran. It was shelter. We need to move you, she said. His eyes sharpened. No hospitals. I wasn't planning on one, she said. But if you stay here, you'll bleed out in 10 minutes. And if we move, he said, we bring death with us. Nayeli exhaled shakily. Death's already here. Another wave of pain hit him. He groaned, head dropping forward. That's it, she muttered. You're done arguing. She moved fast, adrenaline taking over. She locked the gun's safety, slid it into her jacket pocket without thinking. Then she unstrapped the babies, one by one, lifting them carefully. They were heavier than they looked. Warm. Alive. Her arms trembled. Don't drop them, Seoryan said weakly. I won't, she said through clenched teeth. I swear I won't. She carried them to the van, set them down gently on the back seat, then ran back for him. You can walk, she told him. I can kill, he said faintly. Tonight, you're walking, she replied. She wrapped his arm around her shoulders and hauled him upright. He cried out, weight sagging heavily against her smaller frame. Blood soaked into her hoodie. You should have left, he rasped. So should you, she shot back. They stumbled to the van together. Rain soaked them both to the bone. Nayeli shoved him into the passenger seat, slammed the door shut, then sprinted around to the driver's side. As she pulled away, headlights swept across the warehouse. She didn't see the shadow move. She didn't see the camera lens blink to life. She only knew that as the van merged onto the empty road. Seoryan slumped back, eyes fluttering closed. Hey, she said sharply. Don't you dare sleep. Just a second, he murmured. No, she said, panic rising. Stay with me. Talk to me. He forced his eyes open. Why? He asked quietly. Why didn't you leave? Nayeli swallowed hard, gripping the steering wheel. Because, she said, voice breaking just a little. Someone once left me when I needed them most. Silence filled the van, broken only by the soft breathing of 2 sleeping babies and the sound of rain pounding against the roof as Port Calder swallowed them whole. And somewhere behind them, engines started. Rain chased the van through the empty streets like it wanted them back. Nayeli's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, her foot hovering between brake and gas as she checked the rearview mirror again and again. Every pair of headlights felt like a threat. Every shadow felt alive. Seoryan's breathing had gone shallow, his head lolled toward the window, blood soaking into the seatbelt across his chest. Hey, Nayeli said sharply, reaching over to shake him. I told you not to sleep. I'm awake, he muttered, though his eyes stayed closed. Just conserving. That's not a thing, she snapped. You pass out, you bleed out. One of the babies whimpered in the back seat, a small, broken sound that sliced straight through her chest. I need to get you somewhere safe, she said. Somewhere no one's looking. There is no such place, he replied. Not anymore. Well, I don't have a secret bunker, she shot back. So you're getting my apartment. His eyes cracked open then, sharp despite the pain. No, not optional, she said. You want those babies alive? You come with me. He stared at her for a long moment, rain-streaked city lights reflecting in his dark eyes. Then his gaze drifted to the back seat. Fine, he said quietly. But if anyone comes, you leave. I'm not leaving them, she said. I didn't ask, he replied. I told you. They drove in silence after that, the city slowly changing from industrial decay to tired residential blocks. Nayeli pulled into a narrow alley beside her building and killed the engine. Her hands shook as the sudden quiet pressed in. "Can you stand?" she asked. "I don't plan on crawling," he said. She snorted despite herself. Good. Getting him upstairs was worse than she expected. 3 flights, no elevator. Every step was a battle of will. Seorian's arm was heavy over her shoulders, his breath hot against her neck as he hissed through clenched teeth. "Stop apologizing," she said when he muttered, "Sorry," for the 3rd time. "I don't apologize," he said faintly. "Well, you are now," she replied. "Congratulations." Inside her apartment, the air smelled faintly of damp plaster and old cooking oil. The radiator clicked uselessly in the corner. Nayeli kicked the door shut with her foot and guided him to the couch. "Sit," she ordered. He collapsed more than sat, head dropping back, jaw clenched hard enough to crack teeth. She locked the door, then the chain. Then she checked the window, pulling the curtain tight before moving to the babies. She lifted them gently, one at a time, laying them on the bed wrapped in spare towels. "They're okay," she said softly, more to herself than him. "They're warm." Seorian watched her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You handle them like you've done this before," he said. "I've held babies," she replied. "Doesn't mean I know what I'm doing." "That's enough," he said. She turned back to him, hands already reaching for her first aid kit. "Shirt off." He gave her a look. "Excuse me?" "Don't make this weird," she said. "You're bleeding through leather. I need to see the wound." He hesitated, then slowly shrugged out of his jacket and shirt. Her breath caught despite herself. His torso was a map of ink, lines, symbols, coordinates etched into muscle and skin, wrapping around his ribs, trailing down his spine. It wasn't decorative. It was deliberate. "What the hell?" she murmured. "Later," he said tightly. "Focus." She forced herself to look away, to focus on the wound. The bullet had torn through his side, angry and raw. "This is going to hurt," she warned. "I know," he said. She cleaned it as best she could, jaw clenched as he hissed and cursed under his breath in Korean. At one point, his hand shot out, gripping her wrist hard. "Look at me," she said firmly. His eyes met hers. Dark, burning, terrified. "I'm right here," she said quietly. "You're not alone." Something shifted in his expression then, like a crack in stone. "Don't say things you can't promise," he said. She didn't pull her wrist away. "I promise this." Minutes blurred together. Blood. Alcohol. Pressure. When she finally wrapped the bandage tight, her arms ached and her hoodie was ruined. "You're stable," she said, stepping back. "For now." "For now," he echoed. One of the babies started crying, again. Loud this time. Urgent. Seorian stiffened. "Ari," he murmured. "She eats every 3 hours." Nayeli moved quickly, rummaging through the car seats. She found formula, bottles, diapers, everything packed with military precision. "You came prepared," she said. "I always do," he replied. She fed them carefully, her movements gentle, reverent. The crying faded into soft, sucking sounds. Seorian watched, eyes heavy-lidded. "You're good at this," he said. She swallowed. "I was supposed to be." He frowned. "What happened?" "My parents died," she said simply. "I dropped out. Life got smaller." "I'm sorry," he said quietly. She shrugged. "Me too." Silence settled over the room, thick but not uncomfortable. Rain tapped against the window. The baby slept. "You should rest," she said. "I can't," he replied. "You will," she insisted, "or you'll tear your stitches." He studied her for a long moment. "You don't know who I am." "No," she agreed. "I don't." "And you don't care," he said. "I care about what's in front of me," she said. Right now, that's you bleeding on my couch and 2 babies who didn't ask for any of this." His jaw tightened. "You're going to regret this?" "Probably," she said. "But not tonight." A sudden noise from outside made them both freeze. Footsteps, voices, too close. Seoryan's hand moved instinctively toward where his gun should have been. Nayeli shook her head. "Stay down." The footsteps passed, faded. They exhaled together. "They're looking," he said quietly. "They won't stop." "Then we adapt," she said. "We survive." He looked at her then like he was seeing her for the first time. "What are you?" he asked softly. She met his gaze, heart pounding. "Someone who doesn't walk away anymore," she replied. In the quiet that followed, with the storm raging outside and danger circling ever closer, something fragile and dangerous took root between them. Trust, and it would cost them everything. Morning crept in like a thief, pale light leaking through the thin crack between the curtains. Nayeli hadn't slept. Every sound had her eyes snapping open, heart racing, body already halfway out of bed. The babies had stirred twice, soft whimpers that she answered before they could turn into cries. Seoryan hadn't moved at all. Now she stood in the doorway, watching his chest rise and fall in shallow, careful breaths. Sweat beaded along his temple despite the cold in the apartment. "Don't you dare die," she muttered under her breath. As if he heard her, his eyes opened. Dark. Alert. Too alert for someone who'd been shot. "You talk in your sleep," he said hoarsely. She startled, then scowled. "I don't sleep." "Explains a lot," he murmured. She crossed the room and pressed 2 fingers to his neck, checking his pulse. Strong, fast. "You're feverish," she said. "That's not good." "I've had worse," he replied. "That's not comforting." He watched her closely as she moved, eyes following every step. "You should send them away," he said quietly, nodding toward the bed where the twins slept bundled together. Nayeli stiffened. "What?" "They're not safe with me," he continued. "Anyone connected to me is a target, including you." Her jaw tightened. "I'm not sending babies away with strangers. I have people," he said. "They're trained, loyal." She laughed once, sharp and humorless. "You mean like the people who put a bullet in you?" His expression darkened. "Not all of them." "Not good enough," she snapped. "They stay. You're being reckless." She leaned down, bracing her hands on the couch on either side of him, invading his space. "No," she said quietly. "I'm being human." For a moment, something flared in his eyes. Anger, fear, and something else she couldn't name. "You don't understand the world I live in," he said. "Then explain it to me," she shot back, "because right now I'm already in it." Silence stretched between them, taut as wire. Finally, he exhaled slowly. "Someone betrayed me," he said. "They rerouted my convoy, killed my men, tried to erase me and the children." "And the twins?" she asked. "Why them?" His gaze flicked to the babies. "Because they're leverage, and because one of them isn't mine." She straightened. "You said that before. What does that mean?" "It means," he said carefully, "that my lieutenant died protecting me. His son was born the same night as my daughter. Their mother didn't survive." Nayeli's chest tightened. "So you took him?" "I claimed him," Seoryan corrected. "In my world, blood matters. But so does loyalty. He earned a future for his child." She studied his face, searching for deceit, for cold calculation. She didn't find it. Only exhaustion and something dangerously close to grief. "You're raising him as your own," she said. "Yes." "Then he is yours," she said simply. Something in his expression broke. He looked away quickly. A knock slammed against the door. Hard. Nayeli froze. Another knock followed, louder, more insistent. "Delivery!" a man's voice called out. Nayeli's blood ran cold. She hadn't ordered anything. Seoryan's hand tightened on the couch cushion. "Do not open it," he whispered. The knock came again, followed by the rattle of the doorknob. Nayeli Okoye, the voice called, friendly now. Too friendly. We know you're home. Her heart slammed against her ribs. How do they know my name? Because I checked you, Seoryeon said quietly. The moment you touched those babies. Her eyes flashed. You what? You think I survived by trusting strangers? He shot back. I needed to know who you were. And now they know too, she hissed. The knocking turned into pounding. Nayeli, the voice called again. We just want to talk. Seoryeon struggled to his feet, pain flashing across his face. Give me the gun. No, she said instantly. They will kill you, he said. I won't let that happen. You're barely standing, she snapped. Sit down. The pounding grew violent. The door frame creaked. Nayeli's mind raced. Fire escape, back window, babies. Grab them, she said. Now. He hesitated. Nayeli. Now, she snapped. She scooped up Ari while Seoryeon took Son, cradling him protectively against his chest. Nayeli rushed to the back window, shoved it open, and peered down. 3 stories, trash bins, fire escape ladder just out of reach. The front door splintered with a crack. Go, she said, pushing the babies into Seoryeon's arms through the window. I'll slow them down. No, he said fiercely. I don't leave you. You don't get a choice, she said, eyes blazing. If they get the babies, this is over. Another crack. Wood groaned. Seoryeon looked at her, really looked at her, like he was carving her face into memory. I will come back, he said. You'd better, she replied. He climbed out, pain etched into every movement, disappearing down the fire escape with the twins. The door burst open. 3 men flooded in, all dark jackets and colder eyes. One of them smiled when he saw her. Miss Okoye, he said, you're causing quite a bit of trouble. She backed toward the window, heart hammering. I don't know what you're talking about. Lying won't help you, he said. Where is he? She said nothing. He sighed. That's unfortunate. He lunged. Nayeli reacted without thinking. She grabbed the lamp and smashed it into his face. Glass exploded. He went down with a curse. Another man grabbed her arm, wrenching it painfully behind her back. Let her go. The voice came from the doorway. All 3 men froze. A 4th figure stood there, tall, lean, face hidden beneath a hood. Boss said she's not to be touched, the newcomer said calmly. The man holding Nayeli swore and released her. She stumbled back, chest heaving. Boss? She echoed. The hooded man looked at her. His eyes were familiar. Caleb, her brother. Caleb, she breathed. What are you doing here? He didn't answer her. He looked past her, jaw tight. He escaped, he said. With the kids. The men cursed under their breath. Caleb finally met her gaze. Guilt flickered there, sharp and painful. I tried to warn you, he said quietly. You should have stayed out of this. Her heart shattered. You're with them. I don't have a choice, he said. Neither do you. Outside, sirens wailed somewhere far too close. Nayeli backed toward the window again, mind racing. Caleb took a step toward her. Come with us, he said. It's the only way I can keep you alive. She shook her head, tears blurring her vision. You already chose them. His face twisted. I chose survival. So did I, she whispered. She turned and jumped. The world rushed up to meet her. Pain exploded through her legs as she hit the dumpster hard, breath tearing from her lungs. She rolled, barely aware of hands grabbing her, dragging her into the shadows. Seoryeon's face appeared above her, bloodless and furious. I told you I'd come back, he said. Behind them, the apartment lights flicked on, one by one, as men shouted in confusion. Nayeli clutched his jacket, gasping for air. We're not safe, she said. My brother, he's with them. Seoryeon's jaw hardened, eyes going cold in a way that made her shiver. Then this just became war, he said quietly. And somewhere in the city, Forces began to move, tightening a net that would not let them go without blood. They didn't stop running until the city blurred into streaks of sodium light and exhaust. Seoryan drove with one hand, the other clamped tight against his side. Jaw set like pain was just another enemy to be ignored. Nayeli sat twisted in her seat, one arm braced around the twins in the back, her body forming a shield she didn't even think about anymore. Every time the van hit a pothole, she hissed, but she didn't loosen her grip. "Are they breathing?" Seoryan called back, voice tight. "Yes," Nayeli answered immediately. "They're fine. They're both fine." She checked anyway. Ari's tiny chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. Sohn's fingers were curled into the fabric of Seoryan's jacket, like he knew exactly who was keeping him alive. "Slow down," she said, as Seoryan took a corner too hard. "If you crash this thing, we're all dead. If I slow down, they catch us," he replied. "Pick which death you prefer." She didn't answer. Her eyes were on the rear window. Headlights appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Too deliberate to be coincidence. "They're following us," she said. "I know," he replied. The van swerved suddenly, diving off the main road into a maze of narrow back streets. Brick walls pressed in close, graffiti flashing past like warnings. Seoryan took turns without braking, memory guiding him more than sight. "You've done this before," Nayeli said. "Yes." "With babies?" she shot back. "No," he admitted. The van screeched into an abandoned loading yard and cut its lights. Silence slammed into them. Nayeli held her breath, heart pounding so loud she was sure it could be heard outside. Headlights swept past the entrance seconds later. One car, then another. They waited. Ari let out a small whimper. Nayeli froze, then gently rocked the car seat, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart, I've got you." Seoryan watched her in the rearview mirror, something unreadable in his gaze. After several long minutes, the cars didn't return. Seoryan exhaled slowly. "We move again, quietly." They didn't go back to her apartment. That place was burned. Instead, they crossed the city line and drove until rusted storage units rose out of the darkness like gravestones. Gray-lined storage maze. Nayeli had delivered here once. She remembered thinking it felt like a place where things went to be forgotten. Seoryan parked between two units and killed the engine. "Out," he said softly. Inside the unit, dust coated everything. Old crates. A broken chair. Seoryan shoved a heavy metal rack against the door as Nayeli settled the twins on a folded tarp. Her hands shook now that the adrenaline was fading. When she tried to stand, her knees buckled. Seoryan caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy," he murmured. She laughed weakly. "You're the one who got shot." "And you jumped out a window," he countered. Their eyes met. For a split second, the world narrowed to the space between them. Too close, too intense. She pulled back first. "We need supplies." "I have some," he said, reaching into one of the crates and pulling out a concealed bag. "I planned for this." "Of course you did," she muttered. As she fed the babies again, her mind replayed Caleb's face, the guilt, the words. "I chose survival." Her throat tightened. Seoryan noticed. "Your brother," he said quietly. "Yes." "He's not free," Seoryan continued. "Men like the ones hunting us don't hire family. They own them." She closed her eyes. "That doesn't make it hurt less." "No," he agreed. "But it means he may hesitate." She looked up sharply. "You think he'll turn on them?" "I think," Seoryan said slowly, "that blood complicates loyalty." A sudden scream cut through the night. Not a baby. A woman. Nayeli stiffened. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Seoryan said, already moving. "No," she snapped, grabbing his arm. "You're not a hero. You can barely walk." Another scream. Closer. "Stay here," he said. "Like hell," she replied. They followed the sound to the edge of the storage complex. A woman was cornered near her car, two men looming over her. One had a knife. The other laughed. "Give it back," she cried. "Please." Seorian didn't hesitate. He stepped out of the shadows, gun raised. "Drop it," he said calmly. The men turned. One scoffed. "You alone?" "No," Nayeli said, stepping up beside him, voice steady despite the fear ripping through her. "He's not." The knife clattered to the ground. Later, back in the unit, Nayeli's hands trembled violently. She hadn't touched the men. She hadn't needed to. But something inside her had crossed a line. "I didn't think I could do that," she whispered. Seorian looked at her, expression serious. "You did what you had to. So did my brother," she said bitterly. Seorian's jaw tightened. Not all choices are equal. Hours passed. Dawn crept closer. Seorian finally pulled his shirt aside again. Nayeli's breath caught as she really looked this time. The tattoos weren't random. They were patterns. Roots. Symbols she half recognized from shipping manifests and dock deliveries. "These are maps," she whispered. "Safe houses, accounts." "Yes," he said. "Everything." "You put your entire empire on your skin," she said, stunned. "Why?" "Because no one can steal it unless I'm dead," he replied. "And even then, it's useless without context." "And now everyone wants you alive," she said. "Or flayed," he said flatly. She swallowed hard. A phone buzzed in the darkness. Seorian stiffened, then slowly pulled it from his pocket. A burner. He answered without speaking. A voice crackled through, familiar, smooth. "You're bleeding in my city," Park Dae-ho said, "and you're making a mess." Seorian closed his eyes briefly. "You sold me out." "I protected the future," Park replied. "Your wife believes sentiment made you weak." Nayeli's blood ran cold. "Your wife," she whispered. Seorian's face went ashen. "She's dead," he said into the phone. "I buried her." Park laughed softly. "No, she buried you, and she wants what's written on your skin." The call ended. Seorian stared at the phone like it had bitten him. "She's alive," Nayeli said. "Yes," he replied hollowly. "And she will come for the children." Nayeli stood, resolve hardening into something fierce and unyielding. "Then," she said quietly, "she's going to have to come through me." Outside, engines rumbled again, closer this time, as the city prepared to collect its debt. The woman appeared like she belonged there. That was the first thing Nayeli noticed. Not the way the men around her moved aside without being told. Not the way their hands hovered near their weapons. It was the calm. The absolute chilling calm of someone who knew the world would bend before her without resistance. Yoon Hye-in stepped into the dim aisle between the storage units wearing a cream-colored coat that had no business being anywhere near rust, oil, or blood. Her heels clicked softly against concrete, as if she were walking into a gallery, not a kill zone. Rain misted the air behind her like a curtain being drawn open. Seorian went rigid. Nayeli felt it instantly, the shift in him, the way his breathing changed, the way his body angled forward like a man facing a ghost. "No," he whispered, not loud enough for anyone else to hear. "You're dead. Hey." In smiled. It was a beautiful smile. Careful, practiced. The kind that had once convinced boardrooms and blood councils alike. "Did you miss me, husband?" she asked lightly. Nayeli's heart slammed so hard it hurt. Husband. The word echoed, heavy and wrong. "You poisoned the babies," Seorian said, voice shaking now despite everything. "You're the one who rerouted the convoy." Hye-in tilted her head, feigning thought. "Ah, you noticed." Nayeli stepped forward before she could stop herself. "You're sick," she snapped. "They're infants." Hye-in finally looked at her. Really looked. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, dismissive, all at once. "You must be the girl," she said. "The inconvenience." "I'm the one standing between you and them," Nayeli replied. "So choose your next move carefully." Hye-in laughed softly. "You think this is about them?" She gestured lazily, and one of her men stepped forward, holding a small insulated bag. "Check the formula," Hye-in said to Nayeli. almost kindly. Before they drink it again. Cold terror flooded Nayeli's veins. She spun, rushed to the car seats, hands shaking as she grabbed the bottle Ari had been drinking from earlier. Her fingers trembled as she unscrewed the top, sniffed. Something was wrong. "Seoryon," she whispered. "Something's wrong." As if on cue, Ari stiffened. Her tiny body arched violently, a high-pitched scream tearing from her throat. Son followed seconds later, his face turning red, then frighteningly pale. "No!" Nayeli gasped. "No, no, no!" She dropped to her knees, cradling Ari as the baby convulsed. Seoryon lunged forward, ignoring the guns now trained on him. "What did you do?" he roared. Hyin's smile faded. "A mild toxin, fast-acting, very clean. I needed to know you'd still choose them." Nayeli's mind snapped into action. "Get water," she barked. "Now." She didn't wait for permission. She forced Ari's mouth open gently, fingers precise despite the panic screaming inside her. She tilted water in, careful not to choke her, rubbing her tiny back, forcing a gag reflex. "Come on," Nayeli whispered desperately. "Come on, sweetheart, fight." Son seized harder. Seoryon dropped beside them, hands shaking violently. "I don't know what to do," he said, voice breaking. "I don't know." "You hold him," Nayeli ordered. "Firm, don't panic, look at me. I need you steady." Her voice cut through his terror like a blade. He obeyed. Minutes stretched into eternity. Nayeli worked with everything she knew, everything she remembered from training she never finished but never forgot. Flush, stimulate, keep airways clear. Finally, mercifully, Ari's body went limp. Nayeli's breath hitched. "No!" Then Ari cried, weak, thin, but alive. Son followed moments later, a shaky wail that broke something open inside Nayeli's chest. Seoryon collapsed forward, pressing his forehead to the concrete, sobbing openly now, shoulders shaking. Haein watched it all with clinical interest. "Fascinating," she murmured. "You replaced me quickly." That did it. Nayeli stood. She crossed the distance between them in 3 steps and swung a heavy wrench she'd grabbed earlier with every ounce of fear and fury she had left. The impact sent one of Haein's guards sprawling. Chaos erupted. Gunfire cracked the air. Seoryon grabbed Nayeli, yanking her down as bullets tore through metal behind them. When the smoke cleared, Haein was on her knees, hands zip-tied behind her back, her perfect coat stained with grime. Nayeli stood over her, chest heaving. "You don't touch children," Nayeli said, voice low and shaking with rage. "Ever." Haein looked up at her, eyes cold. "You'll learn," she said softly. "This world eats soft things." Hours later, they hid in a forgotten motel on the edge of Port Calder, Meyerhaven. The name was a lie. The lights flickered. The air smelled of bleach and regret. Nayeli cleaned Ari's face again and again, unable to stop touching her, checking her breathing. "She's stable," Seoryon said quietly. Nayeli nodded, though tears blurred her vision. Then Zone cried. Not a normal cry, a thin, pained sound. Seoryon stiffened instantly. "Something's wrong." Nayeli lifted Son, fingers pressing gently against his abdomen. He whimpered sharply. Her blood turned to ice. "He's bleeding internally," she said. "The toxin must have damaged something." Seoryon's face drained of color. "What do we do?" She swallowed hard. "He needs blood. Now." "Hospital?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "No," she said. "They'll find us." Silence pressed in. Then realization dawned, slow and terrible. Nayeli turned toward the bathroom. Haein sat on the tub edge, wrists bound, watching them with detached curiosity. "You're a match," Nayeli said. Haein smiled faintly. "Of course I am." Seoryon's voice cracked. "No, he'll die," Nayeli said. "Unless we do this." Haein laughed softly. "Look at you," she said to Seoryon. "Begging me to save what you love?" Seoryon dropped to his knees in front of her. "I'll give you anything," he said. "Just help him." Haein studied him for a long moment, then shrugged. Fine. The transfusion was brutal, improvised, risky. Nayeli worked with shaking hands, every second a knife edge. She didn't look at Hae-in. She didn't trust herself not to hurt her. When it was over, Son's color slowly returned. He lived. Hae-in leaned back, pale but smiling. You see, she whispered, we're bound forever. Nayeli met her gaze, something dark settling deep in her chest. No, she said, you're bound to your sins. We're done with you. A phone buzzed. Seorian answered. Park Dae-ho's voice came through, urgent. The council convenes in 1 hour, Park said. Bounty's active, no more running. Seorian looked at Nayeli. She looked at the babies, then back at him. Then we stop running, she said. And for the first time since the rain-soaked night that started it all, Seorian believed survival might cost more than death, but lead to something worth protecting. They left the motel before dawn, before the city could wake up enough to notice what was about to change. The babies were wrapped tight, strapped into their seats with hands that no longer shook. Nayeli moved with a calm that felt foreign to her, like fear had burned itself out and left something harder behind. Seorian watched her from the driver's seat. You're quiet, he said. I'm thinking, she replied. About running. She shook her head once. About ending this. A faint, humorless smile tugged at his mouth. Careful. That kind of thinking gets people killed. So does hesitation, she said. And I'm done hesitating. They didn't take the main roads. Seorian led them through freight arteries and service tunnels, places mapped not on GPS but on skin. Nayeli glanced at the tattoos again as he drove, finally seeing them clearly for what they were. Contingency plans etched into flesh, a man who never expected to grow old. Your whole life is escape routes, she said softly. Yes, he answered. Until you. He didn't elaborate, and she didn't ask. Some truths were too fragile to handle at speed. They stopped beneath the Iron Veil warehouse just as the sun began to rise, staining the sky rust red. The building squatted at the edge of the harbor like a fortress that had outlived its purpose. Armed men stood at every entrance, suits dark, eyes sharper than their smiles. Park Dae-ho waited by the side door. You made it, he said, relief and calculation fighting behind his expression. His gaze flicked to the babies. They're alive. Because of her, Seorian said flatly. Park nodded once. Good, then we still have leverage. Nayeli stiffened. They're not leverage. Park raised his hands. Of course not. Forgive me. Old language. They moved inside. The Iron Veil Council chamber was cavernous, all concrete and steel beams, a long table stretching beneath hanging lights. 12 chairs, 9 occupied already. Men and women who didn't look like killers but carried themselves like gravity bent for them. Conversation died when Seorian entered. Whispers rippled like electricity. You look like hell, one man said lightly. Still breathing, Seorian replied. Disappointing, I know. Nayeli felt the weight of eyes on her, measuring, dismissing, some curious, some amused. Who is she? A woman asked, lacquered nails tapping the table. My partner, Seorian said. The word landed hard. Murmurs rose again. Unacceptable, another voice snapped. This is council business. Nayeli stepped forward before Seorian could speak. Then stop pretending this is a private matter, she said clearly. You dragged civilians into it the moment you put a bounty on babies. Silence slammed down. Someone laughed. She has nerve. She has facts, Park said calmly. And she has something none of you accounted for. And what's that? The woman asked coolly. Park looked at Nayeli. Perspective. Seorian turned to her sharply. We discussed— No, Nayeli interrupted. You planned. I lived it. She faced the table, heart pounding but voice steady. You built this world on fear and loyalty. You convinced yourselves they were the same thing. They're not. A man leaned forward. You don't know anything about our world. I know you poison babies to test men, Nayeli said, eyes locking onto Yoon Hye-in, who sat restrained at the far end of the table, still pale, still smiling faintly. I know you enslave brothers and call it debt. A sharp intake of breath rippled around the room. Seorian went still. What did you say? He asked quietly. Nayeli turned to him. Her throat tightened. Caleb was owned, she said. By them, by your system. Hye-in chuckled. He served well. Seorian's gaze snapped to his wife, something dangerous igniting behind his eyes. Before he could speak, footsteps echoed behind them. Enough! The voice was familiar. Nayeli turned. Caleb stepped into the light. He looked thinner, bruised, but alive. Her breath hitched. Caleb. His eyes found hers immediately. I didn't die a hero, he said quietly. I didn't die at all. Relief crashed through her so hard her knees nearly gave out. Seorian stared at him. You led them to her. I was forced, Caleb replied, and then I stopped. He reached into his jacket and tossed something onto the table. Phones, drives, documents. Every route, every payoff, every order, Caleb said, including the one to poison the kids. The room erupted. Voices overlapped. Accusations flew. Hye-in's smile finally vanished. You traitorous little— Shut up! Nayeli snapped. The room fell silent again. Nayeli walked forward, placing herself between the council and the baby's empty carriers. You think this ends with one execution, she said. It doesn't. You keep doing what you've always done, and someone worse replaces you. She looked at Seorian. You want them safe, she asked. Then stop teaching the world to hunt them. Seorian closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, the man who looked back at the council was not just an enforcer, he was a father. Old rules are dead, he said, effective immediately. A man stood. You don't have that authority. Seorian moved faster than anyone expected. One shot, clean, final. The body hit the floor with a dull thud. Authority was established. I do now, Seorian said coldly. Anyone who disagrees may leave, or try. No one moved. Nayeli swallowed, steadying herself, then spoke again. You want survival? Here's how. Clean fronts, no children, no family leverage, protection networks instead of slaughter. A woman laughed nervously. And why would we listen to you? Because, Nayeli said, I'm the one who kept your empire alive tonight. Silence. Then, slowly, one chair scraped back, then another. One by one, heads nodded. Submission didn't look like applause. It looked like calculation, acceptance. Seorian turned to Nayeli, something like awe in his gaze. You just rewrote our future, he said quietly. No, she replied. I gave it a chance. Security moved to escort Hye-in away. She twisted in her chair, eyes blazing with hate and something like pride. You think you won, she hissed at Nayeli. This world will take everything from you. Nayeli met her gaze steadily. It already tried. Hye-in was dragged out screaming. When it was over, when the room emptied and the city held its breath, Seorian sank into a chair, exhaustion finally claiming him. Nayeli sat beside him. Their shoulders touched. I was afraid, he admitted quietly. So was I, she said. He looked at her, really looked at her. Stay. It wasn't a command. It was a plea. She thought of rain, of a gun shaking in a stranger's hand, of babies crying in the dark. I already did, she said. Outside, Port Calder woke up under a new order, one born not of fear alone, but of survival, sacrifice, and a woman who refused to walk away. The penthouse overlooked Port Calder like a quiet promise that could shatter at any moment. 3 months had passed, but Nayeli still woke at the smallest sound. The city stretched beneath the glass windows, container cranes silhouetted against the horizon, ships gliding in and out like patient beasts. From up here, it almost looked peaceful. Almost. Ari laughed from the living room. a soft, bubbling sound that still startled Nayeli every time it happened. Laughter felt like a luxury. Son answered with an indignant squeal, clearly offended that his sister had found something funny without him. Nayeli smiled despite herself. "You hear that?" she called softly. "They're plotting already." Seorion stood by the window, one arm loosely wrapped around her waist. His side had healed, though the scar remained, a pale reminder that some debts were paid in flesh. The tattoos still mapped his body, but now they felt less like a prison and more like a warning. "They take after you," he said. "Stubborn, loud." She leaned into him just slightly. "That's your influence." Below them, the city pulsed. Deals were still made. Power still shifted hands. But something fundamental had changed. The Iron Veil Council still existed, but its teeth were filed down, rules rewritten in blood and resolve. Protection networks had replaced hit squads. Front companies had turned cleaner, quieter. Not innocent, but evolving. Survival, not slaughter. Nayeli crossed the room and scooped Ari into her arms, pressing a kiss to her soft curls. "You know," she murmured. "Your father once told me I should have walked away." Seorion snorted. "I was wrong about many things." Son crawled toward Seorion, determined and unsteady. Seorion dropped to one knee, without thinking, catching him just before he face-planted. "Careful," he murmured. "You fall hard, little man." Nayeli watched them, her chest tightening with something that felt dangerously close to peace. Her phone buzzed. The sound sliced through the moment like a blade. She froze. Seorion looked up immediately. "What is it?" She didn't answer right away. She stared at the screen. Unknown number. Her thumb hovered, then tapped. "Okoye," a man's voice said. Smooth, calm, too calm. "You don't know me, but I know you." Nayeli's spine went cold. She turned away from the children instinctively, stepping onto the balcony, glass doors sliding shut behind her. "Stop," she said quietly. "You're not welcome in my life." The man chuckled. "You stepped into a very old game, and games don't end just because the board changes." "Who are you?" she demanded. "A collector," he replied. "Of loose ends." Her grip tightened on the phone. "Be careful. You're speaking to people who don't scare easily." "Oh, I'm counting on it," he said pleasantly. "Tell Seorion the southern docks are restless. Tell him old allies don't appreciate being replaced by morality." The line went dead. Nayeli stood still for several seconds, city wind tugging at her hair, heart pounding with a familiar, unwelcome rhythm. Behind her, the door slid open. Seorion didn't ask what happened. He read it on her face. "They're not done," she said quietly. "No," he agreed. "They never are." She turned to him, eyes steady. "We're still standing." A slow, dangerous smile curved his mouth. "And that makes us a problem." Below them, far out in the harbor, a ship sounded its horn. Long, low, ominous. Nayeli looked back at the city she once ran through in fear. The night that changed everything still etched into her bones. She thought of rain, of a gun shaking in a dying man's hand, of 2 babies crying in the dark. She didn't flinch this time. "Whatever's coming," she said, "it comes through us." Seorion reached for her hand, their fingers lacing together with quiet certainty. From the shadows of Port Calder, eyes watched the penthouse lights burn on, and plans began to move. Thank you so much for watching this story until the very end. If you felt something, anything at all, please hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me your favorite part. I read every single comment, and they mean the world to me. Also, let me know what city you are watching from. I love knowing where all my amazing viewers are located. Until next time, stay blessed, stay safe.